Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you wherever you are, all around the world. Once again, you are welcome here on the platform of Awakening of Being Consciousness. This is the headline of international news. Ukraine and NATO have just made a monumental mistake that will not go unpunished, that will not go unanswered by Vladimir Putin's Russia. But while Ukraine is making this mistake, Vladimir Putin is trying to show his human side. Since Donald Trump is very discouraged by what he has seen with his own eyes in recent days, President Putin, very wise and very clever, extremely clever, wants to demonstrate that he wants the end of this conflict and that it is Ukraine that does not want the end of this conflict. And so, Russia has just made an announcement that softens hearts, that softens Donald Trump's heart. But when Donald Trump looks at what Ukraine and NATO have just done, Donald Trump automatically understands that it is these people who do not want the advent of peace. What have Ukraine and NATO done? And when we talk about NATO currently, know that the two countries that are at the head of NATO, informally, are Paris and London. These are the two rebels who are standing up against Vladimir Putin. So, what is happening? We do know, however, that on the side of France, as many commentators have recently pointed out, correcting me, or at least reminding me, France sees Russia as its sworn enemy, and it truly is its enemy, since it is Russia that caused France to lose its influence in Africa. So, France is not fighting for Ukraine. France is fighting for itself. The United Kingdom is also fighting for itself, thus defending collective interests. So what happened? On the night of April 28th to 29th, 2025, Ukrainian drones targeted several Russian regions, We have the Ryazan region, I was going to say. We have the Nizhny Novgorod region in Russia, and others that were targeted by several Ukrainian drones. Let's say NATO drones, since it's NATO that is involved. So, the information provided by the Russian Ministry of Defense, I'm getting there. The Russian Ministry of Defense announces that the Russian air defense shot down 91 Ukrainian drones. Imagine, 91 Ukrainian drones were shot down by the Russian air defense, including 8 that were shot down over the Nizhny Novgorod region. Nizhny Novgorod is a region. 11 were shot down over the Ryazan region, and many other drones were also shot down in the sacred region of Kursk. Ukraine has not yet forgotten and is not ready to forget the fate that Russia and North Korea reserved for it in the Kursk region. They are miserably trying to take their revenge, but it's impossible. Yes, the Russian air defense systems are very convincingly strong. So, which regions have been affected? We have the Kursk region, the Ural region. Moscow itself was hit, as well as Belgorod, Kaluga in the Bryansk region, and Crimea was also affected. They sent drones all over the place. But the Russian air defense managed to shoot down many of them, even though some were able to reach Russian soil. This is a very severe provocation. The day after, Vladimir Putin announced a 3-day truce that will come into effect from May 8th. So from May 8th to May 10th. So it's troubling to see that while on one hand, Vladimir Putin is trying to move towards peace, there are others, the opposing side, who are determined to move towards war at all costs. And that is why To demonstrate his humanism, to demonstrate his good faith and goodwill, Vladimir Putin, Russia made an announcement. So before continuing, I ask you to share this video conference. Share it as much as possible. So, the Kremlin is softening its tone. The Kremlin is softening its tone on the alleged questions of Zelensky's legitimacy. You know, Russia had said that, Putin had said that Zelensky was not legitimate. They even went as far as to demand the establishment of a civilian transitional government. Yes, but we are in politics, like the establishment of a civilian transitional government, headed by a civilian president who will not be Zelensky, to manage the transition while waiting for elections, as they see that this might take some time. But the ultimate goal of Russia is to see this mafia-like band of Zelensky's governance leave Ukraine. So Russia is also playing the game. So Russia says that this issue is not a priority. Yes, the priority is the negotiations. So Russia asserts that negotiations are the priority. That means it doesn't matter with whom to negotiate, even if it's with the current leaders. So the Kremlin declared on April 29th that starting negotiations with Ukraine was a priority over what it calls legitimate issues of legitimacy. So Russia declares today, April 29th, 2025, that negotiation issues are prioritized over issues of legitimacy. So they have prioritized the negotiations regarding the legitimacy of President Volodymyr Zelensky. Here is what they say. Certainly, legal issues are related to legitimacy, but in this specific case, the initiation of a peaceful settlement process is a priority. This is what Russia says, but be careful. Russia wants the opening of negotiations. It is a priority. However, in negotiations, when negotiations are opened, Russia will say, okay, we are ready to negotiate. That is to say, this is what is prioritized, that they first sit down at the negotiation table. When they sit down, Russia will say, okay, we are ready. We have come to the negotiation table. But the one on the other side, there, we cannot negotiate with him. Are we in such a scenario that Russia is preparing? And if Russia says, the one on the other side there, we cannot negotiate with him, we want a transitional government, but the negotiation process continues, we can just suspend the negotiations, organize elections, so that someone more legitimate than Zelensky is there. If they say it, the partners, especially the Americans, will see Russia's goodwill and might accept. In any case, it's a fool's game. International geopolitics is a game of the mind. It's the mind that dances, it's music, but only the mind dances. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the international news headline. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I'll be back shortly with more news. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.